This screencast is to support this lesson on the topic of housework, and the target language is have something done and reflexive pronouns. There's some vocabulary and speaking at the beginning, followed by a reading, the grammar focus and some practice. It's from Language to Go Intermediate by R. Wileman and C. Crace, lesson 32. So we want to get the students thinking about the topic of cleaning, housework, etc. The book suggests this activity here, number 1, where they have to underline the correct alternative out of 2 items of vocabulary connected with housework. I find this a little bit outdated. There's some quite dodgy sentences. It's a man's job to do or make the gardening and do or wash the car. This would provoke some discussion, but I think it's better to steer away from these kind of quite sexist statements and perhaps just find a way to elicit the vocabulary that you want. So homework versus housework, tidy, messy, wash, vacuum, and then all the household chores that use do or make, which students find confusing. So do the ironing, do the dishes, do the gardening, etc. You could get them to make a list of household chores that they can think of, and feeding back, check to make sure they're using do and make in the right place. Make the bed is one with make, but they're mostly with do. So try and find a way to elicit this concept. Check difference between homework and housework. It maybe elicit the opposite of tidy, see if they know the word messy, and get them speaking about the topic by setting them some questions. So I would suggest something like, who does the housework in your house? Do you enjoy it? Which one do you like the least, etc. Just have a bit of fun with the topic. Next, they're going to do this reading called Made for You. So exercise 3 says, look at the beginning of the advertisement for Made for You and discuss the following question. What kind of services do you think they offer? You might need to check that they understand what a maid is. Quite an old-fashioned word now, and that they get the meaning of made for you as a business name. And then before they read, they can predict the kind of services they think might be offered for your home. So just get them to talk together and come up with as many ideas as they can about what services they think the company offers. So now they can read the rest of the advertisement once they've come up with the ideas and you've had some feedback, and they can check to see if any of the services they predicted are in the text. Get them to pair check afterwards to say how many were the same as their predictions, and then get some feedback. Then they can move on to exercise 4, the second reading task, where they have to match the headlines with the correct paragraph in the advertisement. So at this point, you might want to pre-teach some of the vocabulary. So treat yourself. Treat yourself is a good one, isn't it? So check the meaning of that, make sure they understand what it is. You could also here include any other vocabulary in the text that you feel they need for this more detailed understanding. I would suggest efficient, can't stand, and fully qualified as possible items to pre-teach here. Once they've understood the vocabulary, they can then individually match each headline with the numbers in the text. Then they peer check, get some feedback and show them the answers. Now they've had an understanding of the topic and they've done some reading, we can focus on some of the language that's come from the reading. So the grammar focus gives students these 2 sentences from the text. You can't do everything yourself, and have all your washing and ironing done. So these are the two language focuses for the lesson. So 5A, look at example A and underline the correct alternative. Okay, so elicit first that this is a reflexive pronoun, yourself, myself, himself, etc. And answer these questions. Okay, so we use reflexive pronouns when subject and the object are the same or different, and we want to make the subject stronger or weaker. So for number 1, yourself relates back to you. So they're the same. And we want to make the subject stronger. So you can't do everything yourself. So you could highlight to the students that you can say the sentence without the pronoun. You can't do everything. But by adding yourself, you're just emphasizing, you're making the point more strongly. So the focus here is on A. So yeah, keep that separate from the second sentence. So I would just show the sentence A, then ask the questions about A. And then together you could ask them to complete the gaps, writing in the correct reflexive pronouns. So me, myself, him, himself, etc. Make sure that you pick up on the VES for the plural, themselves, and when you is plural, yourselves and ourselves. Okay, so yeah, so making sure that they understand the meaning. For the form, it's useful to check where in the sentence it goes and do some drilling for pronunciation. I found this exercise online from myenglishpages.com, which you could adapt onto a slide where they have to insert the correct reflexive pronoun, because the book doesn't give an exercise specifically on the reflexive pronouns. So Alan made this dish, himself. Laura sent the email, herself, etc. So you can use some or all of these sentences to give them some practice of the reflexive pronouns. So do an example, get them to work alone, peer check, feedback, making sure they can see the answers and that they're using the correct spellings. Again, making sure that they're making the correct pronouns plural when they need to. To make it more challenging for this level, you might want to not give them the pronouns, see if they can do it without them, and then if they get stuck, give them the pronouns to fill in the ones that they haven't managed to do. So now we can focus on the second part of the grammar, which is this sentence B, have all your washing and ironing done. So have this separated and on a different slide. I would change this example sentence to you have all your washing and ironing done, just so it looks more complete with a subject at the start. Now the book checks it by using these questions over here on number 6, but I would focus it on our sentence B, you have all your washing and ironing done. And I'll put these two questions slightly adapted onto your slide below that sentence. So if you have all your washing and ironing done, do you do it yourself? The answer is no. Do you ask and usually pay someone else to do your washing and ironing? Yes. So those are the key concepts with this structure. Have something done. Okay, so somebody else does it for me, and I usually pay someone else to do that for me. So now that you've checked the meaning, they need to work out the form. So they've got the sentence, you have all your washing and ironing done. I would give them a gapped sentence to complete the form with. So subject, you, plus gap, plus something, plus gap. So they need to talk together and decide what goes in the gap. So it would be have or has, you have, he has, something, I've given them, and then gap. What's this word done? What part of speech is it? It's the past participle. So you want them to talk together and fill in the gaps so that they can be clear on the form. At this point, it might be fun and useful to do a little game where they have to come up with the past participle of the verbs you give them, because they need to know their past participles in order to construct this structure correctly. You could make your own Quizlet with the infinitive on one side, and they have to race to guess the past participle, and you can flip it over to reveal it. Or there are lots of games like this one online I've got from this website, just randomly found it, where you have a multiple choice. Have you my ticket to Miami yet? Booked. Good. Next question. She has finally recovered. Good. Okay. So we have not seen the new Brad Pitt movie, etc. Okay. So yeah, you can devise your own activity, turn it into some kind of game, to get students revising the past participles so that they're more confident with making sentences with this structure later on. 6b asks the students to underline examples of have plus something plus past participle in the text, and to note which tenses are used. This might be useful. You could get them to underline, to identify them in the text. Otherwise, you could take them out yourself, put them on a slide, and just say to them what tenses are used. So for example, I had it cleaned from top to bottom. I had it cleaned. So they've changed the verb have into the past simple. So that's the past simple. And over here we've got have you ever had your hair cut in the comfort of your own home? Have you had? That's the present perfect. Okay, so you can conjugate the verb to have into any tense you like. So it would be worth selecting some of the sentences using different tenses from the text and getting the students to identify the tenses. Once they've done that, you can hide the sentences from them and drill them. So drill them in context, paying attention to any features that need focusing on, any contracted forms, any weak sounds, any linking, sentence stress, etc. I'm not keen on this practice activity as I find it quite confusing for the students in the course book. So, as they've already done an activity on reflexive pronouns, they can now just focus on the structure have something done. This one from elt.oup.com is a really good one. I've given you the answers so you can see them, but if you leave the information in the boxes out so that the students have to construct the sentences themselves. So we usually, every 2 years, the bedrooms redecorate. We usually have the bedrooms redecorated. Sarah isn't making her own wedding dress, present continuous. She is having, present continuous, it made by a designer in Italy, etc. So I would give them this activity instead. Then they can move on to this freer practice, answering these questions. You could give them some prompts so they've got some ideas of things to speak about, such as maybe a picture of a dog, a picture of a hairdresser, a picture of someone looking after your children. Just make sure the activity is sufficiently scaffolded with visuals and that you do a clear demo so that they are clear on what to do. Get some feedback on ideas at the end to see if they agree or disagree, and do some post-fluency error correction.